Hey everyone, this is Jim Grisanzio. We're back here in Brussels at the MySQL Summit. This is the pre-FOSDEM MySQL Summit. I'm here with David Stokes. David, welcome.
Thank you. Bienvenue à Bruxelles. And that's about all my French, so no more.
Oh my goodness, okay. He's the first name I can pronounce here, so I'm very, very happy. And all of a sudden he starts speaking French. So David, you are one of the community managers. I actually just spoke to, I spoke to Lafred a little bit earlier.
Yes.
You're the other community manager.
Yes.
How do you guys split up the work of community management of this community?
Well, for the most part, Fred's APAC and EMEA, and I'm mainly North America, but a couple times I get to come over the Atlantic to talk at some certain events. He does a lot of stuff for the DevOps type folks, and I do a lot for the developers. So I'm at a lot of PHP, Python, and similar shows, and he's at the folks who are trying to keep everything running. So it's not a hard and fast demarcation line, but it's there. And we can translate either way, but that's the way it goes.
Interesting. Okay, so let's talk about you. Let's talk about how long you've been involved in this community.
I was actually working for a university and doing a lot of stuff on the cheap, which meant open source. And there was a product out there called MSQL, which is a database from Australia, which sort of worked. And then these two crazy guys from Scandinavia came out with something called MySQL. Has to work better because there's another letter in the name, right? And it did what I wanted. And at the time, I was working for a company that couldn't afford the licensing for the bigger databases, unlike the company that we work for now as one of them. And started doing stuff with MySQL. And back then it was, I don't want to say tinker toy level, but it had a lot of limitations. But everyone embraced it, and we built the product through the community efforts and a lot of engineering efforts to become what it is today, which is just won the DB Engine's ranking award for the best database for 2019. So I'm going to try for that again for 2020. So
a long time then.
Yeah, it's one of those things you look back and go, oh my God, I was so young and naive at the time, but it worked out.
So why have you been involved so long? This is a community, this is open source. Is this just something that's in your blood?
A little bit in my blood. It's more like I'm fascinated by the community. Every week I find somebody's doing something different to solve some engineering problem. And it's amazing how creative and clever the MySQL community is. It's one of those things you turn around and go, wow, I didn't think you could do that. And then you figure out they're doing it on an open source operating system usually, open source programming language, open source database, and it's just amazingly creative.
So you actually brought up a very interesting subject, something that I'm personally very interested in, is how people solve really hard problems. You mentioned creativity, and you mentioned you're solving technical problems. If this is something that you were interested in as well, what are some of your observations about how engineers actually collaborate to solve problems that seem up front really unsolvable?
Well, a lot of it's thinking outside what we used to call thinking outside the box. You tell people how things want to work. You don't give them procedures how to do it, and you let them run wild. Of course, as a manager, it's kind of hard to manage that sort of thing, especially when it comes back to the yearly review. But it's one of those things where you tell these people, go out and figure out how to solve the problem. And the more latitude they have, the more interesting solutions they have. Of course, there's a certain amount of rigor and what they call in the Japanese martial arts seitagata, the middle of the road approach that works so well for a lot of applications. And a lot of open source is middle of the road, vanilla solving problems, and then you add your own spices and your own toppings to it. So
what about the individual collaboration? Do you find that people work together on problems, or do they work individually? Do they focus? How the actual mechanics work?
Well, the funny thing over the past 15 years is I've seen a shift from everyone's in an open office space to people working remotely, and things like Slack, and 10 years ago it was Skype. People are actually working from all over the world working on problems, and it's kind of interesting how rather than having to sit in a boardroom across a big mahogany table and have all these pie charts and slide decks where you're trying to figure out stuff, someone says, hey, I'm working on X and I'm running into this problem, how do you solve it? And someone said, well, last week I did it with this piece of code, take a look at it, see if you can adapt it, maybe we'll make a general function. So it's a lot of synergies coming from people just sharing.
So the concept of sharing then, so something new can emerge that you didn't expect before.
Yeah, it's more of an evolution than a revolution. So.
Cool. Okay, let's talk about actually FOSDEM. Yeah, so this is a pre-FOSDEM event because I understand there's not enough room at FOSDEM for all this content, which is what Fred was talking about. But in a couple of days, we're going to go to FOSDEM. I've never been. What should I expect?
The old expect the unexpected from the Monty Python Spanish Inquisition skit. FOSDEM is unique. If you've never been, you need to come. It's in Belgium and not probably a particular wonderful time for weather, but FOSDEM is unique where the various communities set up and they get assigned a room, like MySQL has a room. And they set up their own talks. We have, I forget, 12, 14 half-hour talks. And there's no registration. They have no idea how many people come. They do track cell phone back records, but they're kind of like, how many people are carrying 2 or 3 phones? How many people are carrying near phones? So it's kind of a guesstimate. And some of the rooms are absolutely packed, and other rooms are not so packed, but it's amazing. And unlike some of the more formal talks, you're going to see things that are work in progress, things that are people just upset about something and they're trying to express it and work it through. Other things, you're seeing glimpses of what the future is. So if you haven't been, you need to come. It's a free event. Just show up at the Free University of Brussels, and it is an amazing event. There's no other way to describe it. It's almost like a rock concert without the earplugs.
You mentioned something, the talks are just 30 minutes?
Yeah. For the MySQL room, they're 30 minutes. Oh, okay. Well, we tell them 20 minutes with 10 minutes for question and answer and shuffling people around. But yeah, it's basically 30 minutes.
So if you have your own room, you can say how long the talks will be?
I believe so.
Why did you guys choose 20 minutes?
Try to get as many people in as long as you can, and we're trying to keep it short and pithy. You'll see that the menu for this year is a lot of variation. So we're having a lot of heavy beef, we're having a little light and spicy, we're having dessert first, we have a salad midway through. It's trying to give as much different coverage to as much facets as we can.
Interesting. Okay, so what's next for you after this event?
Fly home, do laundry, pack up, leave the next day, and I head off to Sunshine PHP in Miami. Totally different weather, totally different audience.
From Miami, is that going to be in? Actually, you'll be able to see the Super Bowl then.
I'll get home just in time to see the finale, but I'll probably ask my wife to tape the Super Bowl commercials, which is the only really important thing in the entire weekend.
Yeah, because it's this weekend, right?
Yeah.
I think Super Bowl is this weekend. Okay, cool. Well, David, thank you very much for coming by. I appreciate it. And we'll see you guys. We'll see you for the rest of the day and also this weekend. And we'll see you guys at FOSDEM. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Be good. Bye-bye.